Hi, everybody. Welcome. Come on in. Hi, everyone. Okay, let's kick off. So, hi, everybody. I'm Gabby Rosenfeld, and I'm the Education Manager here at ISCD. And on behalf of everyone here at ISCD, we'd like to welcome you all to the Dulux Colour Forecast 2025 webinar. So while we're waiting for everybody to come on in, let me know where you're tuning in from in the chat box. If you can see that chat box there, I'd love to know where everybody's coming from. Brisbane, Sydney, Canberra, all over the place. Oh, wow, look at that. Lots of Melburnians. Fantastic. Oh, Noosa, that sounds nice. Wonderful. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. So tonight we're going to be joined by our panelists. We have Andrea Lucena-Orr, who is our guest presenter tonight. Hi, Andrea.
Hello. Sorry. Whoops. I've done it again.
How are you going?
Good, thank you. Thank you so much for having me tonight.
Oh, it's a pleasure as always. And we also have Charlotte, who's our Student Enrolment Advisor for ISCD. Hello, Charlotte.
Hello, Gabby, and hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. So as Gabby says, I'm a student enrollment advisor here at ISCD, and I'll be looking after the live chat with my colleague Lee. So any questions you have throughout tonight, that is, just pop it in the chat box at the bottom there, at the bottom of the Zoom window. There is an option for Q&A, but we're going to be using the chat box today. Also, there's two options there for everyone or host and panelists. So we'd like you to, if you could just click on everyone, because chances are someone else has the same question as you. And as I said, we'll take all the questions and take them at the end for Q&A. So looking forward to it. Thanks, ladies.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's get started. So just before we bring Andrea on, we'll just do a welcome to country. So in the spirit of reconciliation, ICD acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respect to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. So I just wanted to, before I bring Andrea on, just give you a bit of a rundown, because Andrea's been in this amazing role for quite a while, over 25 years at Dulux, and has been working as a colour trainer, doing trends and colour forecasting and presenting her findings to trade, retail and the media. Her recommendations play an integral part in Dulux marketing strategies, and lucky you, Andrea, you get to scour the globe in pursuit of your passion, which is colour forecasting. So pretty amazing stuff there.
Yes, I'm very lucky. I've got the best job at Dulux.
Okay. So it's always a busy time of year, of course, with the colour forecast. So tell us, what have you been up to? What sort of things have you been doing?
Sure. So obviously, since the start of August, we've been doing a bit of a media roadshow, and we've had our launches. So I have been traveling quite a lot. We've had some fantastic feedback with the palettes, so that's really exciting. It's always nice to hear people's reactions to the forecast. So we'll look forward to the end of this session as well, and how people feel. It's obviously always inspiring to be able to show people some new colour, and also new inspiration for how colours are put together as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can't wait. And also we have exciting news, because we've officially partnered with Dulux, our school. So what that means for us, of course, is, things for our students, like having access to collateral and samples and things like that. And we're running our first ever design competition with Dulux with our students. So one lucky
Absolutely
gets the full colour atlas and fan deck, so that's exciting. So we're running that, yeah, and you'll be announcing that and judging it. So yeah, exciting.
That's right. No, very excited about our partnership. No, I think it's wonderful.
All right. So I'm going to hand it over to you, and we're going to have some questions. You and Charlotte will jump back on after your presentation. So it's now over to you, Andrea.
Okay, I'm just going to share my screen. Okay. Excuse me. Oops. Sorry, hang on. Sorry, guys. That again. It helps if it's back at the start, of course. Okay, now we're right to go. All righty. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming tonight. As I mentioned before, it's always an exciting time when we're launching our next forecast. So without further ado, I will start. So working alongside my colleagues, Lauren Treloar, who's our Dulux Colour Manager, and Bree Leach, who's our Dulux Colour Forecaster and Stylist, we've created the latest in Dulux Colour Forecast palettes. And I'm here to share with you those with you tonight. So with the world in a state of uncertainty, the lingering effects of the pandemic, an economic downturn, and our continual connection to the digital world, many of us are feeling a tad overwhelmed. There has never been a greater need to slow down and live in the present, look to joy in our surroundings, and find comfort in reminiscing about times when we felt secure and obviously safe. These shifts have been the key catalysts for change in this year's forecast trends for 2025. Mid-tone colours will continue to dominate in Australian interior design. However, the palettes will be a little bit more muted compared to previous years. We're still seeing soft browns continue its emergence of warmth and that brown base, providing depth in each palette, affording spaces a feeling of groundedness. So distilled into 3 distinct palettes, we have 3 palettes to share, and that is Still, Recollect, and Emerge. And these will demonstrate how colours with warm brown undertones playing such an important role in evoking a sense of nurture and positivity. In 2025, Dulux predicts that rich burgundies and wine hues will become more prominent throughout residential interior design, alongside an increased use of green, including olive, and anything with that yellow-green base, and as well as even into those sort of lighter greens as well. So let's have a look at our first palette of Still. So as a counteract to the fast pace of life, the Dulux Still palette encompasses slow design with an appreciation for the beauty of the mundane and the comforting everyday rituals of life. Our need for living in the present goes hand in hand with our increased desire to have a greater connection with nature. As a result, the subdued palette is filled with calming neutrals with brown undertones, as well as mid-tone shades that exude warmth and a sense of ease. Demonstrating a broader cultural movement towards sustainability and a renewed appreciation of traditional craftsmanship, this trend is full of thoughtful and considered materiality choices. It combines organic, biophilic shapes with chiseled, imperfect forms that are both natural and unrefined. Utilitarian furniture adds a monastic quality, but is complemented by textural finishes that achieve a warm, minimalist feel. So celebrating the mundane, artwork can embrace still life compositions, evoking a sense of understated luxury. So this is our first mood board here, just giving you an overarching feel of what this palette is about. You can see there's some beautiful natural colours and importantly, natural textures here. So a couple of things that I'd like to pick out on this mood board that you're looking at is the bottom image, the middle image on the left, which is by Sancal, is the, it's actually designed by Note Design Studio. It's called the New City Bench and Table. This was actually, all of these images are actually mainly from Milan Design Week. And this particular Sancal exhibition really took our notice because of this utilitarian style of furniture. Obviously, it had these beautiful, rigid, clean lines that really created a simplistic design style. And it was really reminiscent of train seating systems. The design is obviously so modular and flexible. It really is such a great piece of furniture to fit into smaller apartments or even smaller office spaces and areas, obviously, where you've got limited space. Another thing that we really loved on this particular board was the Garn display, which is that bottom right-hand image, which is the rug there. They presented new rug collections in a space conceived by Soren Rose, developed to convey the essential values of contemporary craftsmanship and respect for the outdoor environment. The pared back design of the stand allowed craftsmanship and materiality to really shine through, whilst their ranges focus on natural and recyclable materials. And we did see that whole, upcycle, recycle right through, and you'll notice that this theme is coming through every one of our trends. It's such an important sustainability angle now in everything that we do. So when it comes to the colour, you'll see these beautiful neutral colours here. We have incorporated our warm white in Antique White USA. It is a beautiful white that just works so perfectly with all of these colours because you do have mainly that warmer base. We also have included some beautiful neutrals here to explore. So mellow beige, slight mushroom, clay pipe, all gorgeous neutral colours. All of these will work with most of these colours right throughout the palettes, but certainly every colour on this particular palette. Now, these three neutrals, you can see mellow beige has that beautiful warmth underneath. They all are warm, actually. Even slight mushroom is warm. It does have a grayer appearance because obviously it's right next to those super warm neutrals. But light mushroom has red in it. So it's a really complex neutral because sometimes it can look quite beige, but other times because of the red in it, it can look a little bit mauve as well. So depending on surrounding colour and lighting, obviously it is quite a chameleon. We've also included our key colour, which is Studio Cream. We saw this colour everywhere throughout Milan, and we actually predicted this colour from a lot of the material that we were obviously researching and analysing prior to us going to Milan. And this particular colour, Studio Cream, works beautifully with the colour next to it, which is Grainfield. This is another complex colour. It's obviously got that gorgeous sort of golden ginger base. Still beautiful and warm, but it sits back a little bit because it's got a lot of black in that colour. Other accent colours, obviously the blues are still important, Enterprise and Pacific Spirit. We've also included this beautiful sort of clay terracotta colour, Clay Court. This is a beautiful colour, lots of black in it. You'll see this used in situations in the photography that we've done. It really sits back in the space because it's so natural and so much black in this colour. It just sort of, it's a perfect backdrop. I'm sure you'll fall in love with it just like we have. Another accent is obviously Pesto, a fantastic green. This is such a great mid-tone green to use. If you haven't already looked at this colour, I definitely think you need to have a rethink about greens because this is a beautiful colour, and we have actually utilised this on the image to the right here. Another really interesting sort of brown, I suppose. It has a lot of red in this brown, so it does have almost like a slight purplish undertone as well sometimes. This is a really gorgeous deep colour. Once again, it looks amazing next to Clay Court. Even that sort of Grainfield and the gold colour, but it works beautifully with all of those neutrals as well. So let's have a look at the materials. So when we're looking at materials, undyed textiles are selected for their natural properties and colours in wool, shearling, cotton and linen, and innovative new materials designed for full circularity are integrated alongside traditional materials, things like stone, ceramic and even lava stone. Metal accents in beaten silver, platinum or bronze finishes appear alongside things like paper, cord and leather, and primitive style line work patterns to enrich the sensory experience. So that really sums up this particular palette. So when you see this overarching mood board, you see lots of those beautiful, natural, unrefined and organic finishes. There's no doubt here. A couple of things that I'll pick out on this board. On the bottom left image there, we have the Aqua Arena installation. Their table the top of the table was made from ceramic pieces that celebrated the balance between the elements of water and earth. And it really appeared like cracked soil in the desert. It was such an amazing illusion. It was absolutely stunning. The other thing that we really loved here was the top right, which was the El Decor installation. They always do an amazing installation in Milan, and certainly this year was no different. So we saw various examples of large block-style benches and cabinetry often appearing as large, unrefined blocks of stone. And El Decor demonstrated the clean lines and these block-style forms in their kitchen using metal finished with a patina. So it was really beautiful, very elegant, very classic, but importantly, it had the most amazing sort of reflections because of obviously that beautiful patina on that metal. So let's have a look how we brought this to life in imagery. So when we see this particular beautiful lounge, this was a gorgeous apartment that we were able to take over in Melbourne. And this particular apartment had beautiful sort of curved walls. And of course, when you curve walls, if you were to use one color, obviously the curve would not be highlighted as much. So it's really important if you've got those beautiful features to really embellish them and bring them to life with color. So here we've used Enterprise on that gorgeous curved wall, and Mellow Beige is on the main walls. Now, for those of you who may have Dulux collateral or you have been using Dulux color for a long time, Mellow Beige was the color male. We had to do some major name changes in about 2018. And that was one color that was changed. So you may be very familiar with the color as male, but it's now renamed as Mellow Beige. Here we have that beautiful clay pot that I mentioned before, just in that archway, but also near the wall to the left of the stairs. We've got Dulux clay pipe as a beautiful neutral. It's such a gorgeous color. And you'll notice that we've done a lot of painting on ceilings. It's a really important thing when you're working with your clients in your future life, or maybe you're already working with clients. It's really important to have them understand, you know, why you actually do either full color or whether you obviously want to stop color, and that might be with a white ceiling or a lighter version of that wall color. Often when you do one color, so a tonal color on the ceiling, what it does, it emphasizes things in that space, because as soon as you have a contrast between wall and ceiling, your eye will obviously move up there. So you want to try and keep the eye at the space level of where everything is happening. And that is your beautiful furnishing, your decor items, you know, beautiful lighting, all of those elements that obviously cost a lot of money and you put a lot of effort into. So it's just a little tip there about why we used a lot of color ceilings. The middle image shows you that gorgeous light mushroom I mentioned before. It has a lot of red in it, and you can sort of see the differences between where it's in shadow versus where it's in light. It really does come to life when you get that light coming through that window there. The final image to the right there is that beautiful pesto that I mentioned before, and you can really get the sense here of how much emphasis is on that bed and that bedding and the beautiful furniture versus, you know, where you've got that overarching color in green. It really does highlight it. It's a great way to bring color in, but really, I suppose, harmonize that whole space with color. This bedroom is a beautiful example of how, you know, that curvature in the walls have been highlighted by having that ceiling in a different color. So here we obviously had that Nighthawk, which is a gorgeous sort of brown, but it has that slight purplish undertone. And of course, here we've used clay pipe as the main color as well. So those two colors just work so beautifully together. On the left, this just gives you a different angle of that lounge area with that curved wall, sorry, that dining area with that curved wall. That's Enterprise with Mellow Beige. And of course, the middle image there is our key colour in Studio Cream, which is such a beautiful light reflecting colour. This room didn't have a lot of, it was sort of in the middle of the apartment, didn't have the greatest amount of natural light, but it's amazing how much light was thrown around once you put a colour like that, which has a fantastic light reflectance value. And of course, here we've paired that with the grain field on that bulkhead and ceiling, which those two colours are so well balanced. On the right, here we have our gorgeous clay court. We can't go past that colour. It is such a stunning colour, so natural, so earthy. And once again, it sits back and it just lets everything else sort of shine in front. And that has been paired with mellow beige. So how would we use these colours together? Now, obviously, this is such a neutral palette. There's no limits on how you should use these colours. You can obviously keep it very tonal and keep it really light and use something like clay court with antique white USA, really simple. You can also do something quite contrasting. And you could do something like we saw, which was Nighthawk with clay pipe, or even do something tonally between the two blues, or even that cream with that grain field as well. So there's a lot of ways you can cut it. You can't really do much wrong with these colours, to be honest. So this brings us to our next palette of Recollect. So let's have a little understanding through this particular trend. So rapid advances in technology have led to the rise of deep fakes and misinformation, leaving us longing for authenticity and certainty as we seek solace in the known. This moody and luxurious Recollect palette embodies this connection to heritage and nostalgia, leading to interiors that feel cozy, safe, and familiar. There's also a secondhand influence, which is key for this trend, with furniture and decor elements spanning anywhere from the 50s through to the 90s coming through. Whilst older generations can find comfort in the past, younger generations see newness and exciting opportunities to blend classic styles with modern decor, sourcing unique vintage pieces to express themselves in their own eclectic style. So on our mood board here, you can see we have some really beautiful bold colour, quite a different palette to what you saw before in Still. We also see there's some beautiful burgundy and wine colours, and I mentioned that at the very start. These are really key colours in this particular palette. So you can obviously see the nostalgic influence coming through very strongly here as well. And we had a lot of fun taking photos in Milan. There was just so much of this nostalgic sort of trend coming through. So a couple of elements to select on this particular mood board. On the top left, we have the installation by Glass Italia, which was absolutely magnificent this year. This Ollie console, shown here in a glossy plum, glass finish, features refined and innovative technical and decorative solutions, which are further making glass a desirable material and design. And just importantly, obviously, that glossy plum, you know, we're seeing a lot more gloss in furniture, not just in glass, obviously, but even in finished timber, and seeing that really high, almost mirrored finish gloss. Another thing I really would like to point out is that bottom right-hand image, and that is from Baxter's flagship store in Milan. And they featured a rich colour palette of deep reds, burgundy, and plum hues. Furniture and styling had a distinctive 70s character with the modular Aura sofa inspired by the conversation pits of that decade. Whilst the ranges evoke eras of the past, they focus on the stylistic elements that are still relevant today. So who knows, we might see those sunken lounges come back. You never know. If you wait long enough, the old cycle keeps continuing. So when we get to our colour palette, you can see there's a lot more colour in Recollect versus what we saw in Still. We have incorporated a warm white in Whisper White here because that white really does work beautifully with all of these colours. The key colour, with no surprise here, is Plum Sauce. Really, really important colour for 2025. We also, the yellow greens, which I also mentioned at the start. So we have incorporated Zingabar, olive blend, but also these sort of greens in tidal green and black water as well. So greens as a theme are very important going forward. The browns we can't neglect, of course, especially when we're thinking about nostalgia. Faded terracotta and auburn flare work beautifully together. They're gorgeous colors. Faded terracotta is a really complex color. It's got a lot of different tints in it, and it's a chameleon. It will pick up on other colors around it and be quite moody in a darker space versus quite light and vibrant in a really light-filled space. Accent colors here, obviously Bananarama, that yellow, we're still seeing yellows in our palette, but certainly more from an accent perspective, and especially that red clown as well. We saw so many spaces that had just those pops of red clown. We're not seeing it in mass, that mass volume, but we are seeing just those little pops of red coming through, and you can see it in both fashion, but also interiors as well. So how does it look from a materials perspective? So textured and opulent fabrics, including crushed velvet, chenille, and damask, feature in bold clashing patterns, diagonal stripes, diamonds, checks, and nostalgic florals. Unique stone with interesting veins and colour, mirrored finishes and high gloss solid furniture pieces, and central elements to the trend, adding a touch of modern glamour and intrigue. So here are just a couple of things that I would like to point out. Obviously, overarching, you can see all those beautiful sort of nostalgic textures, especially velvets in particular and chenille. On the top left in elegant decor, once again, you can see the importance of those gloss finishes, especially on this particular design classic. This is called the Street Unit by Nanda Vito from a service. First released in '94 and re-released in 2020. Certainly, this has got a real retro feel, no doubt, but it's that gloss yellow. Anything that gloss in furniture in particular, you know, kitchen cabinetries, the color will always be so much richer when it's in gloss versus matte. Just something to consider if you are getting furniture pieces made. The other thing I'd like to point out is that bottom right-hand image. That is called the La Birche Table by Alexandre Sifo. This was at the Rosanna Orlandi Gallery. It was absolutely incredible. We were stunned by this. It was such an illusion on the eye. It really looked like stone, but when you touched it, it was soft and it was warm. So obviously it was not stone. And incredibly, it was made from regenerated silicone using scraps from his workshop. So pretty impressive, amazing piece of work. And he had a few other smaller elements throughout Rosanna Orlandi Gallery as well. So now we come to this gorgeous home. Once again, this was in Victoria. This particular home is just a stunning architectural feat. You can see some beautiful elements right throughout. This colour we've used is olive blend, and we've just used black water just on those window frames to highlight that gorgeous view that they've got. That is a beautiful view. And of course, Zingabar is just to the right there in that archway leading through into their dining and kitchen space. The next image on the left is that beautiful grape shot. Grape shot is a gorgeous colour. You can see it's in that sort of wine area. And of course, here we've highlighted it with the red clown just on that balustrade and in that furniture as well. But you can also see how beautiful the pairing is between purples. Anything with that wine purple sort of combination with red, they always work. There's such a great balance in, even if you're using them in textiles. The middle image is that beautiful Zingabar with the black water just on the right-hand wall. Bit of fun there with that gorgeous cherry pendant. And you can just get that sense of that nostalgic feel with these, not only these colours, but also the style elements. On the right-hand side is just a different angle looking into the glass there with that black water alongside olive blend. Those two colours just work so beautifully together. In the bedroom, we had a little bit of fun with this coral blossom. It is a light colour, but of course, in full sunlight, it looks quite bright. It's got a really happy and joyous sort of feel, and it looks just so beautiful with that auburn flare on the ceiling. The pairing is beautiful, and with that nostalgic sort of ginger colour on the drapery there, you can just see how it all just gives you that sort of retro feel. And of course, even with those clashing patterns in the bed linen as well. On the left here, one of my favourite colours is this faded terracotta. It is a bit of a chameleon. It looks almost like a pumpkin colour sometimes, but often it can fade back almost to a tan as well. And as I said, it looks very different in shadow versus in full light. This has been paired just with the whisper white on the windows, and of course, simply just that red door coming into that space, which was just the glass door with the framing in the red clown. A different angle in the middle of that gorgeous lounge room in olive blend, with the Zinger bar just shining through on that right, leading into that dining space. And the last image is one of my favourite images here, which is the plum sauce, our key colour. And that is with the auburn flare in the foreground on that archway there. But you can see how beautifully those two combinations of colour go together. And just with all the pattern, the cross patterning and everything, it does give you that real beautiful nostalgic vibe. So how we use these colours, once again, it's really how you or your clients want to. You could keep it quite simple and tonal and use something like tidal green with olive blend or Zinger bar with olive blend. You can bring in the simplicity of whisper white and just simply use that with something like tidal green or faded terracotta. We can go quite contrasting, as you saw when we use something like auburn blend with faded terracotta as well. There's so many ways you can use these colours. They are absolutely beautiful. There's lots of muted colour in this other than the red clown, which is obviously quite a bright colour. Certainly you can really play with these colours and just explore the way that they can combine. Our final palette is Emerge. So let's have a deep dive into our last palette. So providing a renewed sense of hope across our global and local communities, the Dulux Emerge palette is a trend that embraces self-expression, understanding and acceptance. Influenced by shared housing arrangements, skilled sharing initiatives and activities such as clothing swaps that promote altruism and environmental stewardship. Interiors can take on their own eclectic style to celebrate connection. Visually, the trend features soft rounded forms and expressive collections of decor crafted with modularity and curves. These shapes and free-flowing lines add to the light-hearted and whimsical atmosphere of this trend. AI is used to positively influence imagery in artwork alongside quirky florals in a mix of almost pastels and bolder hues serving as focal points. So looking at this gorgeous mood board here, you can see how joyous and playful and just that sense of happiness that it exudes here. A couple of things that I'd like to point out. Obviously, Muto is always a beautiful installation in Milan, and they had these gorgeous soft mauves. You can just see how beautiful those colours interact together. One of the interesting things was at AA Donto. So this particular yellow-green in this tile. So this new tile brand was presented, this range by Tirahiro Yangihara Studio, and it featured the soft green-yellow in this new tile range. The collection explored new ways of using tiles as items of furniture and objects of purpose rather than just decoration, which I think is a brilliant idea. And they had such a beautiful colorways in their whole design. Another thing to point out is just that image on the bottom middle there by Capsule Plaza. This installation was by the design studio Alaska for Nike. It featured the sky blue furniture reminiscent of early fiberglass and plastic creations from the 60s and 70s. And it just had that sense of, fun, frivolity, and playfulness. It was a really fun piece. So when we see the colours, these certainly are a lot more lighter than what we have seen in the last palette, but there's still lots of colour here. But certainly, once again, they're paired back. There's not a lot of clean colour here at all. Actually, there's very little clean colour. We have incorporated our white in Hog Bristle Quarter. This is a gorgeous soft white. If anyone is interested in using a white that has red and ochre in it, and also black, obviously. And what it does, it pairs back a little bit, but it still has that warmth, that underlying warmth, which sometimes you just need. Other key colours here, obviously, no surprise, our key colour here is Cornstalk, that yellow-green, such an important colour in 2025. Also, these gorgeous blues. So we've got here the Puhoi Half, which is a part of our Colour of New Zealand collection, and also Justice. Now, Justice it is a blue, but it does have a really strong, striking purple undertone, and those colours work beautifully together, of course. For those of you that are decorating or designing rooms and you only have small spaces to work with, if you're using those soft blues like Pu'oi Half, or even that tidal green that we saw in the last palette, those soft blues and greens work so beautifully because they are long wavelength colours on the colour spectrum, which means we see them last. And anything that we see last will always give that illusion of more space. So great tip if you're working with those tiny spaces and you want the illusion of a larger space, using those light blues and greens will always help. Other colours which I absolutely adore, Piglet and Lavender, great colours. I actually call those neutrals. They are warm. Obviously, they have that sort of soft pink undertone, but they are really great paired back colours. Another colour that works beautifully with cornstalk is something like Clay Bake. Once again, it has that sort of muted tone, but has a lot of light reflectance, really fun colour to work with. Terracotta Chip, really beautiful earthy colour, has a little bit more punch. And of course works beautifully again with those sort of golden colours, even the greens and into those blues as well. Of course, we've had to include our vintage lilac because we saw so much in that space when we were doing our research. And of course, once again, that gorgeous lemon blast. And of course, ripe rhubarb in that sort of raspberry pink colour. Here we have the actual material board, if you like, here. What we see here with materials is lots of sort of quirky materials, lots of different materials, whether they're recycled materials or merged materials as well. There's a lot of influence here with those curvature forms. You can really see that highlighted here as well. But overarchingly from a colour sense, there's just fun and playfulness here. I really adore this palette. So a couple of things that I would like to select on this particular board. Certainly, Smeg is always interesting in Milan. They have a beautiful installation at Rofair at the fairgrounds. And Smeg released these gorgeous new soft, joyful colours to their classic vintage style fridges. Not only did they have their fridges, they had these amazing new designs in air fryers and microwave ovens as well. And the colours were beautiful as well. Another thing is the top left, the dream stones there. This was a really interesting installation. So soft rounded forms and free-flowing lines really allowed for that beautiful, playful and light-hearted mood. And there's a real emphasis on colour to bring joy and uplift. And certainly these dream stones were they were certainly perfect for this particular trend. So Chloe Veloso is the designer here. She's a student. She created these dream stones as an experimental work where vegetal dye was added to natural stone to bring unusual colour and veins, creating a fantastical material. So something that almost looks surreal. It was so beautiful. So here we have the actual images. This particular home was stunning. Once again, it had beautiful curvature in the walls as well. And obviously adding colour really highlighted that as well. So here we have that key colour in cornstalk with scenario and of course lemon blast on the ceiling. So really beautiful, still in that mid-tone, but lots of colour. On the left there, lots of fun happening. We've got the lemon blast with terracotta chip just on the balustrade of the stairwell there. And of course, Piglet as the colour just on the left going into that space. The middle image is one of my favourite combinations of Piglet with Lambrun. You can see how we've just brought the colour down on the wall just to show a little bit something different, but it also once again emphasises that curvature on the wall and just adds to the whole feature there as well. On the right-hand side, we have those three colours. We have the terracotta chip as the main colour with lemon blast on the ceiling and just those columns there in that gorgeous scenario colour. And there was a beautiful picture window between those columns. These two blues just work so beautifully together with Pu'oi Half and Justice. You can just see how well they work, and having that colour like Justice really is a fantastic way to display decorative elements, especially in those sort of fun, quirky colours as well. On the left there, just a different angle of that original dining space with terracotta chip Of course, we have the clay bake, which those colours look incredible together. And just that bench top we have in the hog bristle quarter, you can just see it is a white, but it's really pared back. The middle image is a perfect example of how contrasting these colours can really add to showing that curvature in that wall. And I think using this cornstalk with lemon blast really is a perfect example of how well that can actually work. On the right-hand side, a different sort of angle of that entry, but of course, bringing in that living space with those two blues. And you can see how, even though there's a lot of colour there, it just works so beautifully. It's very harmonizing with those colours together. So once again, we can have a bit of a play with this palette. There's a lot of ways you can cut it. You saw simply just using something like Piglet and Lavender were very tonal and just really pared back. We can obviously bring in our hog bristle quarter alongside something like clay bake if we want to keep it really simple. We can add a bit of colour to the blues by adding maybe Justice with the Pu'e half, but maybe adding a little bit of vintage like lilac as well. So many ways you can do it. Obviously, this is not just about paint, but this is also bringing in other design and decor elements. So all of these are available in A4 samples. It's as simple as just getting onto the Dulux website and ordering away. They're also available in the colour stickers as well. So there we have the colour forecast for 2025. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now.
Oh, thank you so much, Andrea. That was amazing. I saw a lot of people on the chat, particularly liking the last one, the last trend. I saw so many comments come through, that retro fun-loving style. So we've got a lot of questions in the chat. So thank you. We'll see you in a couple of minutes. Guys, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about ISCD, and then we'll invite Andrea back for questions, alrighty? So I'm just going to share my screen here. So as I mentioned, I work for ISCD as an enrollment advisor, and just a little bit about ISCD. We have been around for about 40 years actually, and if you're considering studying interior design and learning about these beautiful colours and how to piece it together with furniture items and window wall furnishings, we can help with the knowledge side of it to guide you through that. We've helped over about 5,700 alumni to realise their creative potential and become part of this industry. Just to give you a little bit of an idea, our curriculum includes 3 accredited courses, which are nationally recognised and also by the Design Institute of Australia. We've got the Diploma of Interior Design, the Certificate 4 in Interior Decoration, and our micro credentials, which are our short courses. As I said, they're all 100% online. They have flexible intakes every Monday and also flexible payment options. We've actually collaborated with our industry partners, the Academy of Interactive Technology, to create more up-to-date modern courses with more of a tech focus. So we've added a lot more software in there, which is relevant to the designer today. They're highly specialized as well, and being quite a small private college, we help you to make you job ready as well. And if you're worried about not having experience, don't be, as we start from beginner level. So there's no experience necessary, rather, and people often come from very different backgrounds. One of the questions I do get is, what are the differences between interior design and decoration? So decoration is, for example, embellishing a space, creating a mood, such as the color, the style, whereas design is more manipulating the space and reconfiguring the space, knocking down walls, adding a window here, or completely transforming the kitchen or the bathroom. And to tell you a little bit more, it's best to come to our next info session. So I'm just going to leave you my contacts here. So just jot it down if you wanted to explore a little bit further with me, have a little chat and explore these options. Here's my number. And the next info session is Whether to Know. It's on October the 16th. And that's when we'll go in a lot more detail about the courses, the industry connections, and how you can start. So it's on our website as well under events, but it's also here, the QR code. And you can follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Pinterest as well. We are everywhere. And you can also join our mailing list. We have beautiful blogs. We've got a job board as well, which is worthwhile checking out, and a lot of student works that are also posted on our social media pages. So we're up to the end of the night now where we have question time. So if you haven't popped in your questions, do so now, as we're going to invite Andrea back on to take us through some of those questions that you have. And if anything comes up that's industry related, I might ask Gabby to come on. So feel free to ask any questions either about ISCD, but mainly we're going to focus on our star presenter here, Andrea. So let me just pull these questions up. So I'm going to go in order as we look to the questions here. So I've got Jaina. I'm sorry if I pronounced it incorrectly. She asks, Andrea, are these colours now available to sample? And I think you mentioned that in the last slide. So can you just go through how we can get these little samples there?
Sure. So definitely they are available now on the Dulux website. So for ISCD students, obviously they can sample the A4s on the Specify website. And assuming that the ISCD process has already been given to the students. So you just go by the process that has been given already, but they're already available to order. For anyone else online, you can order them. Obviously the stickers and the A4 samples on the consumer site, there's a very small cost involved in ordering.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you.
That's right.
And Courtney, Courtney, if you're still there, with the coloured ceilings that you mentioned, how do you best approach them in older homes that have, in inverted commas, boring cornices?
Cornices,
they don't have that
yes.
interior detail.
Yeah, because I think a lot of these didn't have cornices. They were square set.
Exactly,
so you could use cornices. We tend to use cornices the same as ceilings. So if you were painting all of the colour the same, you would still do walls, cornice and ceiling in that same colour. If you're contrasting the ceiling, I would use the cornice the same colour as the ceiling and just keep the wall a separate colour.
Okay, that makes sense. Beautiful. I hope that answered your question there, Courtney. And Amanda had a comment about the Recollect palette. She said, "Oh, you mentioned florals, but she couldn't see any florals there. Can you?"
There was a lot of florals, especially in textiles and in upholstery. So those beautiful old floral, upholstery on sofas and chairs and things like that. We saw a lot of that, and even in throws and things like that. So there was definitely some beautiful, and all in those really rich, deep tones as well.
Oh, lovely. Lara had a comment actually that these colors are very much like on the catwalk in designer clothing for 2024-25 European. In Australia, she's seen interiors lag in color trends, but these colors are all in sync, which is interesting. Yeah.
Excellent.
Do you agree that it's
Yeah, I mean, look, we definitely look at fashion. Fashion's a very big influence, but it's not the only influence. And some things in fashion don't necessarily always equate to interiors either. So it's a little bit of working through what we're seeing in fashion, but then highlighting other key elements and then making sure that they work for our market as well.
Absolutely. And Nick comments that you've had some superb insights, and he thanks you for that, and thanks for sharing. That you'll approve of VZUG Studio Melbourne opening in October. So yeah, he's looking forward to hosting you there. So that's fantastic. Thanks, Nick. And Tara would like to get a copy of the presentation. So I think I mentioned that, Tara, this is recorded, so you'll get a copy. Perfect. Beanish has asked, could you please explain more about the beautiful marbles pieces coloured by students?
So that piece was incredible. It was in a installation in Milan that had a lot of students showing their different projects. And that particular student really wanted to work with natural stone. So that was her key piece. So she just had like old samples that people had given her, cut-offs, things like that. And her experimental, she actually had all of the dyes there, the vegetal dyes that she was using. And she was actually showing us how it really highlights the vein. So it gave you a different sort of feel to natural marble, which you obviously still see, and natural stone. You still see the vein, but it really highlighted it. And it almost gave it a little bit of a I don't know, almost a magical sort of appeal because you don't normally see those sort of colours in natural stone either. So it was a fantastic project.
Great, thank you. And Grace asks, is the forecast brochure able to be ordered via the website along with the samples?
For the first month, we normally send out our specify brochure. So when you order A4s, you will automatically get a physical brochure.
Okay, great. And we've got Kate here. She asks, is there a one colour of the year out of all these stories?
No, that's something we don't do, colour of the year. I think it's very polarizing when you do colour of the year because I don't think everyone is going to connect with one colour. So we tend to do 3 curated palettes. So it highlights particular colours in those palettes, and then people can choose their particular colour that they're, really honing into and that will work with their home and also their commercial offices or business. So there's a lot of ways that we can use palettes of colour, but not so much singular colour.
I see, and how they work in harmony with each other, just as a combination.
Correct.
Yeah, I see. And I've got Belle here. She asks, if you have a decorative ceiling, what do you recommend?
So for a decorative ceiling, it just depends on whether you want to highlight. So if you don't want to highlight it so much, you would paint it a darker color because obviously less light, less light reflectance. You're not going to see the decorative design. If you want to highlight it, you can obviously paint it in a lighter color. And that may be that you do darker walls for that instance and lighter ceiling. So once again, it still brings the eye up, but you get to see all of that beautiful decorative appeal as well.
I see. Thank you for that. That's great. And Nicole had a question that given the ceiling paint is only a white or black base, are you using a wash and wear matte on the ceiling instead?
Yeah, so we tend to use wash and wear, not so much matte, mainly low sheen, because if we're doing walls, we would tend to do walls and ceilings in the same paint if it's the same color. And not all of our colored bases come in matte. So low sheen's just the easiest base to use in a finish in wash and wear. And that way we also get the exact color that we're looking for as well. And remembering that when we have the same color on the walls versus the ceiling, it's a very different lighting aspect, which means the color on the ceiling will always look different because you're not getting direct lighting. And the other thing is obviously you've got reflective lighting coming off walls, coming through windows, even artificial lighting at night. Whereas the way that we see light on the ceiling is a very different case. Often it's shadowed as well, so it'll always look different.
So when you're choosing a color, would it be best to sort of paint a little swab on each and every wall plus the ceiling to get a sense of what it would look like on each one? How would you know?
I think you've got to have just, I suppose, the imagination that when you do walls, it will always look lighter than ceilings. That is just a standard across any sort of thing. So if you're wanting to use tonal color, often what people will do is they'll use maybe a white on the walls if they're going all white, maybe something like grand piano full strength on the walls. They might use grand piano quarter strength on the ceiling. So you're still getting that same tone of color, but much lighter. So it will still look lighter, but it still tones in beautifully. And you're not going to have those huge jumps between having something like a vivid white versus grand piano.
I see. Yeah, interesting. And do you actually use SketchUp or any programs to help visualize that as well for the client? Like, is that something that you do?
We do have a visualizer on our website, which you can play around with color. I think I've just been working with color for so long, I can automatically visualize. I don't have to see anything digitally because I can just visualize it. But I also love the fact that color is not stable. Color will always change. So even though you get your A4 sample, it will look different on that wall versus that wall. So understanding that color isn't stable and that it's meant to actually look different on different surfaces, I think you will embrace that. And get joy out of the fact that it's never going to look the same all the different lights of the day, as light changes throughout the day as well. It should change. And that's what color is all about. You know, it's so I don't know, I just embrace the fact that it always looks different no matter what the light is, different shadows or reflection off different furnishings. You know, even you know, years ago we had a complaint in New Zealand from a customer that saw pink on a white weatherboard. And when we went out to the job, it was because her neighbour had a bright red Mini sitting in front of their yard.
Oh, no
And
way.
it reflected at
Wow.
different times of the day, this pink. You know, yeah, I love
Amazing.
that. That's what I love about colour. It will always change. And in some ways you can't control that.
Exactly. What the neighbour's car is or whatever. Yeah, you don't
That's
know.
right. Yeah.
Wonderful. So we'll keep carrying on. So Bianca asks, are there any brand new colours debuting in these palettes, or are they all existing colours collected into these 2025 trends?
Sure. All of these colours simply are from our Dulux Atlas, so our World Colour Atlas. So everything's available online, or if you happen to have the Atlas, everything is available from there. So everything can just simply be ordered straight off the Atlas online, and all of those are in stock now.
Yeah, fantastic. Great. Tiffany noticed that you had a lot of painted colour on ceilings. What would you say when painters say they can't paint coloured ceilings?
Get a new painter.
Just laugh. Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what?
Change.
Painted ceilings are great. And like, I think we're making it easier for a painter if we're painting walls
Sure.
and ceilings in the same paint and the same color. To me, that's easier
Yeah.
for them. They don't have to stop and start. You know, they don't have to really sort of cut in so much. They still have to cut in if it's a cornice or, you know, obviously a square edge. But if it's the same color, it's just going to be so much easier for them. So to me, I just think they need to get with what's happening. You know, colored ceilings they're not new. There's something that we have been using for a number of years. I think that we're just getting a little bit more playful with them and a little bit more exploring the differences between using color on the ceiling. In the 70s, everyone had colored ceilings. There wasn't white on ceilings. It's only really since we've brought in open plan living. Open plan living, I think a lot of people struggle with where they stop and start color as well. Hence why we had a lot more white coming in on trims and walls for that matter, and also on ceilings.
I see. Interesting. And then we've got Helena. She asks, what strategies do you use to encourage clients to select more colorful palettes? Full color interiors are unexpected for most people, and the idea can make them feel a bit uncomfortable. So what would you suggest?
Absolutely. What we suggest is always start small. So the way people paint normally, unless they're building a brand new home, but in renovation is normally project by project. So it's normally one room at a time. And we always say start in a bedroom space because it's such a personal space. You don't feel open to judgment as well in your own personal space. People aren't necessarily walking through your bedroom. So it is a personal sort of sanctuary. And it's somewhere where you can explore color a little bit. So if you want to go deeper or darker, to me, the darker the color for bedrooms is the best because I love a dark bedroom to sleep in. So personally, I always paint my walls and ceiling dark in bedrooms, but that is a personal thing. And you have to understand your client's wishes, your client's taste as well. But I think that's one area you can start to really have a bit of fun in. And once you live in a coloured space, I think then you get the confidence to then go further and you know, maybe bring colour out into a living room or a study or another bedroom. You know, you can really have a play and room by room just add those little colour touches. But it's all about building confidence because once you live with colour, it's very hard to go back to white. Because you get so much from color. You know, you get so many emotive qualities, you get connection, you get, you know, that sense of feeling. So the differences between spaces, you know, my office is green, but my living area is a very different color. And when I move out of my office into my living room, I want that difference in feeling. I don't want it to feel the same as my office. So I think that's important as well.
That's worthy to note. So yeah, thanks for that. That's great. Vaishali, I hope that's okay how I'm pronouncing. She asks, what effect do we get by using the same color on the wall and the ceiling? So what I guess,
Sure.
what mood or what effect?
So what it does, it gives you that overarching color. So it means that the focus in that space will always be highlighted at base level because there's no contrast between, you know, a white ceiling or a light ceiling or a dark ceiling. So your eye's not going to be continuously going up. It will stay in that main body of the space because there's no separation in color. So it does give you that overarching feel. So all of these things down here, like if it's a kitchen, it will be your beautiful stone or your cabinetry. If it's a lounge room, it will be beautiful sofa and maybe a credenza or, you know, something else you might have in there. But the things that obviously cost a lot of money in design and decor, they're the emphasis that would really sort of hone in on.
I see. It's just gone 7 o'clock. Would you mind staying for just a little bit longer?
No,
Andrea?
that's
I'd
fine.
love to keep going with these.
Yeah.
Just a couple more questions. Thank you so much. Just, take a little sip there. Amanda had a question. She said, great question regarding the decorative ceiling. She said, what about the rose and the light fitting?
Sure.
Do you know what?
Well, I would say the same thing there. So if you really wanted to highlight the rose, obviously you would some people do them in a different color. We tended to do that years ago. Now people don't tend to do a lot of decorative highlighting, and if they do, they keep it quite tonal as well. It is a personal thing. Some customers really love that still. So I think you have to really understand what your client's wanting to do. But if you've got a pendant that really highlights it, it's going to show that rose anyway. So it just depends on what you're trying to, are you highlighting the rose or the pendant or both? I think you have to understand that as well.
I see. Yeah, thank you. Grace asks, how long does it take to create and perfect these colors?
Well, the colors are created, to be honest with you, we do them in big lots. So the last iteration of our atlas was in 2016, and we've had simple sort of additions in reprints. But ultimately, we've got the full spectrum of color. We've got our full spectrum, and I shouldn't say spectrum, but our full set of whites and greys already. So it's about the forecast brings highlight. That's what I love about the forecast, because they are 3 curated palettes that bring emphasis to different colors that maybe if you're looking at almost 5,000 colors in the atlas, you wouldn't even know exist. So it just brings that beautiful emphasis, and also how we put those colors together. I think it really inspires people just to push those boundaries a little bit further as well. This is our catwalk of color.
I love that, how you said that, catwalk of color. Flash.
Yep.
And yeah, great. Thank you so much. And Amanda, she asks, can you request a quarter or a half strength of these colors?
You'll probably find in the atlas, and once again, you can just see this online, the way the atlas works in the spectrum pages from 1 to 49, in that column, we've already given you half and quarters, because it's all scientific, the way our colours structured. And maybe that's something else we can do later in the year with, next year with ISCD, is do maybe some colour training, and I will actually take people through that as well. But a lot of colours cannot be half strength. You've got to be very careful, especially when you get into those deeper, darker tones, because a lot of them are from coloured bases. So we can't, take out half. It doesn't work like that. And they're not, there's little tint, because obviously they come from a coloured base. So it really does depend on the colour, but a lot of those half and quarter strength, we've already got them on the pages. So it's just a matter of you going up or down, depending on what you want.
I see. Thank you so much. And we've got one lucky last question from an anonymous person. What paint finish should be used for skirting boards? What paint finish?
So when we use colour, like a colour, I tend to use the same colour on trims. When you're using whites and neutrals, I tend to use a softer white that works alongside that. It is a personal choice to what you want on your trims. And it also depends on, are you working with one one space, like a bedroom, or are you working in an open plan space? Because I think that changes things as well. But when I'm using darker color, and especially in a bedroom space, I would just tend to use the same color on all the trims, because I don't want them to highlight, if you know what I mean. I just want them to sit back and be part of that overarching feel of the space.
Nice one. All right, we will need to wrap things up. So if people have any questions, where can they reach you if you have any questions, Andrea?
Well, maybe if they come back through here, and maybe if you just send me a list of extra questions, and then I can,
Sure.
you know, reply to those over the next week or something.
Yeah, fantastic. I might get Lee to pop my email in the chat there. So any other questions, everyone else, just pop it in the chat there and Lee will collect it, and I'll be happy to pass it to Andrea to answer. So thank you so much, Andrea. It's like a field of knowledge. I can talk to you all day or all night, but we have to finish there. I'm going to ask Gabby to come back on for last remarks and a little farewell. So Gabby, welcome back.
Oh, look, I don't have much more to say. Andrea, you must be exhausted. That's fantastic. Thank you so much. And yes, I'll hold you to that. The colour trading next year sounds like a wonderful proposal.
Yeah, I think it's always good. It's even if it's a refresher, it's always handy to know.
Totally, I couldn't agree more. So thanks everyone. Just to add to thanking everyone for coming tonight and taking that time out of your evening. I'm sure everyone's starving and wants to go and have some dinner, but thanks very much. And as always, it's been a pleasure having you here, Andrea. Your insights are invaluable. And yeah, we're looking forward to working with Dulux this year and beyond. Yeah, it's very exciting.
Thank you so much for having me. I always love to be able to inspire people with using colour. I mean, once you use colour, you never go back. Trust me. It's a matter of feeling the connection, that emotional feeling that you get, and also that personalisation of using colour. There's nothing like it.
Totally, couldn't agree more. I'm ready. I've got a paintbrush. I want to do my living room now.
Glad to hear. My work is done.
Good job. Thanks
for having me, guys.
Thanks very much. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
Night.